the Cincinnati Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens. And let's just move over here. So, the Ravens slashed the Bengals by a final score of 27-3, making the Bengals fall to 1-3-1. The Ravens bump up to 4-1 atop the division. Actually, the Steelers by win percentage are still one spot higher than them. But the Bengals, Joe Burrow, 19 of 30 for 183 yards and an interception. Joe Mixon, I want to talk about him in this video. 24 carries, 6 of 8 through the air, and 94 total yards. T. Higgins continues to impress, catching 4 passes on 8 targets for 62 yards. And Tyler Boyd came through for a shallow game of 6 targets, 4 receptions for 42 yards. A.J. Green left this game in the second quarter with a hamstring injury, unsurprisingly. On the other side, with Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, Jackson had a pretty bad game, all things considered. Like, this was something where he should have absolutely lit up the Bengals. He completed 19 of 37 attempts for 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a really bad interception. Hollywood Brown hauled in 6 of 10 targets for 77 yards and a score. And Mark Andrews did his thing, catching 6 passes on 9 targets for 56 yards and a touchdown. Lamar Jackson only had 2 carries in this game. It was a bit absurd, all things considered. So let's talk about Joe Mixon, because he's actually the big story here for me. And I tweeted this yesterday during the game. Joe Mixon is matchup proof. I'm sorry, I understand that he's busted before and during the early parts of the year, and he's made a lot of fantasy managers very, very angry and very upset. But Joe Mixon is matchup proof. And the reason why is because regardless of what happens, he is still going to get the ball 20 plus times a game. And that is a volume that you cannot buy. It is like they were getting smoked. Like it was a shutout. It was 20-0. They were getting smoked, and he is still just getting the ball left, right, and center, up the middle to the outside. Heavily involved in the passing game now for back-to-back weeks, which is the big improvement for him. That they just realized, like this team literally just realized, hey, Joe Mixon is 3 times better than Gio Bernard. Let's give him the ball more. So that's where we're at. I'm not concerned about Joe Mixon at all going forward. Neither should you. Yes, the schedule is still a bit rocky before the bye week, but I don't care. When you're getting the ball in this game a literal 30 times between carries and catches, like, how do you sit him from your lineup? Are you insane? And he obviously is a talent to take any one of those to the house on any given play. Joe Mixon is in your lineup every single week. I don't want to hear anything otherwise. He is an absolute great running back in the NFL. T. Higgins is here. This is now the fourth straight week where I've said T. Higgins is here. It's official. Like we're dead. Like A.J. Green, and this is also an A.J. Green take. A.J. Green is dead. He is gone. Drop him. Find somebody else off the waiver wire. There's a lot of waiver wire gold during the current point of this NFL season, where you might be able to drop AJ Green for T. Higgins if he's still available, right? Please just do that. Just literally do the same thing that the Bengals did and pass the torch from one wide receiver to the other. T. Higgins is here. It's actually his 4th straight game with 6+ targets. It's his 3rd straight game with 7+. He's just being heavily involved, heavily targeted, and this was what I was saying about T. Higgins all offseason long, which was whenever a team drafts a rookie quarterback and a rookie wide receiver in the same draft, let alone one round apart, right? T. Higgins was an early 2nd-round pick, and Burrow obviously being the 1st pick in the draft. That usually means that the plan is to stack these two for the next 10 years, right? And with that being said, it's just a continuously budding chemistry. Higgins again, I believe, led the Bengals in snap percentage at the wide receiver position. This is just what it is going forward. It's T. Higgins as the number 1 option for this team. Maybe 1A, 1B with Tyler Boyd, depending on how you cut that, because Boyd is still an excellent receiver, and Boyd is still being heavily targeted as well. I guess I should say that Higgins is the number one receiver on the outside, and obviously Boyd does the majority of his work in the slot as well. I'm not worried about Boyd going forward. This was a really tough matchup against the Bengals, all things considered. Moving over, this was a really tough matchup against the Ravens, all things considered. Speaking of the Ravens and moving over to them, Lamar Jackson, I'm getting frustrated, and I'm sure you guys are too. My stake in Lamar Jackson isn't the fact that I drafted him in the second or third round of a league. It's the stake that I have him as my dynasty quarterback, and granted, I did get him in the 21st round of my startup draft 2 years ago. But I guess, that's the point, right? Even if you did draft him in that second or third round where you have more on the line, it doesn't take a rocket science to look at this Ravens offense so far during the early parts of this year, and this shit's broken. It doesn't look good. It looks stagnant. Lamar is missing throws that he normally is able to make. There's obviously a lot of criticism about his passing ability. I don't give a fuck. He's demonstrated time and time again he can be a great passer in the league. But just to see this offense that looked like such a juggernaut last year, just come to a screeching halt is really mesmerizing. It's head-scratching, it's dumbfounding, and it just doesn't make sense, especially when you look at what Kansas City's still doing, and they're still fucking cooking with fire over there. So to see the Ravens continue to struggle, it's a bit... I'm not fully concerned, but I'm just trying to figure out what the fuck happened. Lamar Jackson in this game had 2 carries, like I said. 2 carries for 3 yards. That is not supposed to happen, right? The reason why we love Lamar is because of the fact of what he can do on the ground with his legs. So to see him not even get the work, it's that confusing, right? And there was obviously the notion of we're going to pass more. And granted, they did in this game. He had 37 pass attempts. But he only completed 19 of them for 180 yards and a score. So if you're going to take away the rushing ability, right, then you better be able to take that and transfer that over to the air game. And it just hasn't yet. You look at what he's done so far in the passing attack. It's 204 yards, 97 yards passing, 193, and then 180. So he's even struggling to get over 200 at this point. And, last year, if that was the case, obviously, the difference is that he was such a threat on the ground where it was a lot of reads and a lot of draws, a lot of quarterback options, things like that. But, the issue is that you're taking away from the strength and you're not applying it to the other aspect of his game. And that's just something that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, all things considered. I'm not going to trade Lamar or anything like that because Lamar Jackson's still a fucking superstar in the NFL and better days are ahead. I'm just trying to figure out what the fuck is going on now with this Ravens offense. Speaking of, the three-headed monster between J.K. Dobbins, Mark Ingram, and Gus Edwards is still an absolute nightmare. You can't trust any of them. Mark Ingram finally surpassed 10 carries. He had 11 for 57 yards. And the reason why I didn't include any of them in the box score is just because nobody stood out. Nobody did anything important. The snap percentages are still 35. They're still 35, 25. It doesn't matter. There's no way to indicate who's going to play well. And regardless, between the three of them, if they're all getting 30% of the work, what are you supposed to do in that scenario? My best advice now at this point is you need to cut bait. I'm fine selling. J.K. Dobbins is droppable. Gus Edwards is droppable. And Mark Ingram, I'd look to trade off name value, at least try and get something back in return. Don't go crazy. Try and make some absurd offer. Take some offer to receive for him because it's not going to work and you're just going to get pretty frustrated. Understand his worth. You can probably get a wide receiver 3 for him for a team that is needy at the running back position. Or even if you want to try and find an upgrade, maybe you trade Mark Ingram for Leonard Fournette in the hopes that Fournette takes over. Or maybe you try and get a Justin Jackson for Mark Ingram with Austin Eckler being out for the next handful of games with that hamstring injury. just a lot of things that you can try and do. I don't know the market for Mark Ingram, but I'd at least try and trade him before you actually cut bait with him. Hollywood Brown, I want to talk about him for just a moment. This is the big sad story for me. I tried to trade for Hollywood this week before this game. I knew he was probably going to break out this game. He's got Philadelphia next week, and then a bye week. But there was a lot of hype with Brown coming into this offseason and him taking the next step. And he hadn't really done it yet, all things considered, but this matchup versus Cincinnati was just so prime for him to do it. I tried to get him this week, and of course I got the classic, let me see how he does this week before I make my decision. And of fucking course, Hollywood gets 10 targets, hauls in 6 of them for 77 yards, and a touchdown. It's an unfortunate situation for me. I don't think the deal is dead by any means, but it's obviously going to be a much steeper climb in order to get Hollywood, because I do feel like I'm a wide receiver away, and I would love to have him on my team. But just stay the course with Hollywood. Like I said, Philadelphia next week. That's a pretty good matchup. We'll see if Darius Slay is on him and in the bye week, but Hollywood for the rest of the season should be a fine start if you need to, right? I mean, Hollywood has never really been the guy where he's your number 2 wide receiver. He's typically your number 3 or number 4, who you're fine starting any given week, and it looks like that's probably going to be the trend going forward. Anything else from this game? Mark Andrews could do Mark Andrews things. I'm not concerned about him in the slightest. Had a touchdown and 57 yards after a bounce back game, right? Last week he dudded. No, that was 2 weeks ago he dudded against Kansas City. My bad. Yeah, Mark Andrews, top three tight end, just going forward. He's a touchdown machine. And I said this actually on Twitter yesterday. There are two. Yeah, there has to be two. There are 2 stacks in fantasy that are the best. Number 1 is Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, and number 2 is Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews. And the reason why it's not a Breezing Kamara, and the reason why it's not Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry, which is another stack that I love, I've talked about that time and time again. The reason why it's the 2 quarterbacks and the 2 tight ends, it's because they are both positional game breakers, right? Lamar Jackson and Mahomes are a quarterback cheat code. They are players who can get you 30 plus on any given week. They can explode. They can win you weeks. And the same goes for their tight ends. And tight end, obviously, the landscape for a tight end, you got your top 3, then everybody else, right? And so the fact that you can have that stack with these 2 game-breaking quarterbacks and these 2 game-breaking tight ends, it's magic. It really, really is. And the fact that I have that in a dynasty league, oh my god, it makes my life so much easier, because I know, set it, forget it, don't worry about the rest, only focus on the other 8 players that you're starting on the week.